Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm joined today by Ben Madden, who is an extremely well-known estate agent from West London. And he is here today to talk about his estate agency journey, the ups and downs of him being an agent. Ben, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. I want to ask you your story of estate agency, why you became an estate agency, the ups and the downs, the fears, the frustrations, the hopes and the dreams. And I know you are just about to turn 39 years old, so again, after that, what you're going to do in the future. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Right, okay. So, when did the shiny lights of a state agency shine their light on you all?
Or
did you fall into it?
Lights, yeah, I fell into it like
the rest of us.
Vast majority, yeah.
Okay.
I was in hospitality, and when I say hospitality, I work behind a bar. You know, let's not dress it up too much. And as a young man, I progressed to managing a 600 capacity bar, and that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of selling whilst working behind a bar.
Were you at university or college in any way, or?
No, I think education was. I wasn't mature enough for education, so I'm quite big on self-development now. But I didn't take school seriously. I did okay at school and did okay at A-levels, but I decided it wasn't really a good fit for me. So I dropped out of my A-levels after year one. I was doing maths, history, economics and IT. Nothing enjoyable there. Well, that's not true. I loved maths. But I think I was doing those for my parents, probably more for me. So after a year, I decided this is not fun. Tried sports, and it was one extreme to the other. There's lots of fun, but nothing challenging. So thought I'll get a bar job. Why not? And did that for a few years. Fast forward, that somehow led into why don't you try being a salesperson? Wasn't that into cars? Didn't want to sit in an office. So estate agency, right? Sell homes, get out and about. It's fun, isn't it? So that's how I landed there.
How did your parents feel that you jacked your A-levels in?
I think I was quite lucky, quite supportive, disappointed. They were intense up until I finished my GCSEs. So I can remember food technology, for instance, not going according to plan and getting a good ear bashing that, you know, why are you not doing so well in that area? So they were quite full on up until I was 16. And then after 16, I seemed to relax a bit. And when I said, look, the A-levels are not really working out, I'm not enjoying them, what I'm meant to be achieving, I'm not going to achieve, they were reasonably supportive. I wasn't the kid that was misbehaving. I wasn't doing things wrong. I just wasn't that engaged. I wasn't that passionate about it.
But is any 16, 17-year-old engaged about their A-levels?
I think the academic kids are. You know, in every walk of life, whatever you're doing, there can be a level of engagement, a level of passion. That drives your, I don't know, in my view, I mean, jump right into a estate agency. The people that are really good at estate agency, they care about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So they train hard, they work hard, they care about what they're delivering. And I think I can look back and think as a 17-year-old, yeah, some of the kids sitting around me, they liked what they were doing.
Were you an only child or did you have any?
No, younger sister.
Okay.
Not particularly close, although fast forward to Thorgills, she came to work with me and was with me for 7 years. But yeah, quite a small family, really.
Okay. And what did you learn from both your mother and father growing up that's helped you now?
So my dad was a scaffolder. Mum worked at a school. Scaffolders don't get any sort of protection. You're self-employed. You graft, you work. If you don't go to work, you don't get paid. So resilience, hard work, work ethic, whatever terminology you want to use. They're quite tough. They're a bit old school, which is sort of rubbed off on me, I guess, a little bit. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like the idea of working hard to get what you hope to out of any situation. So yeah, I've learned to be resilient from them, be tough.
What about your mum?
Same, yeah, she's a tough woman. Her parents, so obviously I wasn't around back then, but her parents got divorced, which when she was only young, which is quite rare to think back to the 50s, 60s. And she had quite a strange childhood. Looking back, I mean, now things are, you know, mental health terminology is thrown around a lot, but I think her mum was, would have been on some sort of spectrum. Her dad was ended up being an extraordinarily wealthy bookmaker, but she had no relationship with him. Quite a strange mix, but it makes for interesting parenting techniques, but I wouldn't change them. It was a tough household, but it was a loving household.
So you fell into a state agency in what, 04, 05, roughly?
Yeah, approximately, yeah. So,
Did you just kind of see an advert like with the rest of us in the paper?
yeah, I think so. So I mentioned a moment ago, the hospitality field I didn't go straight. At that point, I was thinking a state agency should be good. I went and did an interview. I remember doing that distinctly in Willesden, northwest London, and it was on a business. It was a business park, but it was old school, and it wasn't a estate agent on the high street. I mean, maybe they were forward thinking. Maybe they were before their time. They weren't paying high street fees, and it was too big a jump. Things just didn't feel quite right. I went into retail for a little bit, went back to college, tried that business studies as an access course to go into university. I thought I'm ready for academia now, but I wasn't. And then, I applied for an advert following a year's access course to business. And the rest is history. I liked the idea of it. I like the environment that you get from a sales business. I like the idea of playing a part in someone's big decision. And I know lots of people talk about, I really want to help you move to the next stage of your life, which, I like that. But I also like playing a part myself. It's an important thing you're helping people achieve.
So did you go into sales or lettings?
Started in sales, did about 6 months. It was an absolute horror show. Didn't work out at all. It transpires, well, we didn't know at the time, but the sales manager was in the process of setting up their own business, so their head wasn't really in it. So there was next to no specific training, development, coaching. We were sort of left to our own devices, which looking back on it is just astonishing. There were a couple of guys that had been there a long time. They knew what they were doing. They were good at what they were doing. So they used to they sucked everything up. Everything that came in that looked like it would be worthwhile, they were taking it, and the rest of us were feeding off scraps without any help to get better. I ended up getting quite friendly with the lettings team because they were just more laid back. They had a laugh. They went for a drink on a Friday. They were more of a team, whereas in the sales environment, everyone seemed like they were out for themselves. So I transferred over to lettings after about 6 to 8 months, and that went okay. Stuck at it for a while. We had a really, really good team at the company I was at in lettings. Every single person in that team went on to run their own business or manage a
So
unit.
who was this for, and where was the branch?
It was Ludlow Thompson.
Oh, good, decent London firm.
Yeah, they at the time, I think they had 13 branches. We were based in Acton. Absolutely massive commercial unit. Anyone who's from West London will know what I'm talking about. Anyone who's not will think, what's he talking about? It was vast, and you could only see half of it. Out the back, they had the same amount of space again. And a secret is that we used to work out in that back space after work in the evenings because it was as big as a gym. The three of us would go in there, which is not the worst secret in the world, but pretty strange thing to do where you work. But they, Ludlow Thompson were very good when you first came in. So you had an intensive week of training. They got you up to speed on what I would now, with hindsight, would say the basics. Beyond that, at that time, I think training was coming more and more to the front of their agenda. And so there were introduction of different roles that would help you, and there would be assessments in different areas. It's just, in my view, for that model to work, the people in the branch need to be completely invested in that. And it wasn't necessarily what I experienced when I first started. But lettings, as I say, it was like chalk and cheese. I went over to lettings, and the team were just absolutely on it, and they knew and they appreciated that for our team to be good, all 5 of us have to be good. And so you learn from the people sitting around you, they're on your case, you've got to live up to their standards, the quality of work they're putting in. So that went reasonably well. But I decided after a little while that I needed a fresh start, because sales on the other side of the room hadn't gone well, and that was lingering.
So you set up your own agency in 2008. You'd only worked for Ludlow Thompson for literally 2.5 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like anything, isn't it? You didn't go so great there. It's gone pretty well here, but I still can't help but think it didn't go right over there. And, so anyway, long story short, I didn't try to move. It just happened. I was borrowing a set of keys from a pretty good agent in the area, popped in, wanted to borrow the keys. I wasn't one of those negotiators. And so I only ever speak about my little area of the world. I know lots of people want to talk about the whole country, and this is what market does, and this is how people behave. I don't know. In other areas of the world, estate agents might be the nicest people on the planet to each other. In London, they're not. So I was always of the view that I just get on with people, competition is competition. So I'm borrowing a set of keys from a company called Northfield, who were very, very good at the time. And I got on really well with everyone in that room. And 20 minutes later, I got a call saying, will I come in and interview for a job? Yeah, I did. They were, at the time, they were number one lettings company in the UK based on awards. And they were also less than 5 minutes from where I live, which is a pure fluke. And I thought, this fits quite nicely. If I can get on this well with the team and I'm only borrowing a set of keys, I'm going to have a good time here.
So was it Richard Palfreman that interviewed you then?
He was final stage interview, Richard, yeah.
Well, he's just sold his business just like you did last year. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully Richard will watch this and he'll know what I mean when I say he's lived in my shadow for a while.
You're a naughty man.
And so yeah, it's I mean, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot of growth for LRG in that area of the world right now. A few businesses sold. But I learned, listen, just to go back to Northfields, my time at Northfields was excellent. The culture was so much focused around training, development, growth. And I like that. It really resonated with me.
That's quite rare in the estate and letting agency, isn't it?
You know what, again,
well, let me tell you, it is very rare.
yeah, I mean, I think it is because the amount of people I've interviewed over the years for roles who tell me, yeah, they've had the same experience, maybe they had a Ludlow or even less, which I find surreal because I think if you were to interview a few hundred people that have worked with me at part of Thorgills or Fine & Country over the years, they would say, we train people within an inch of their life. It's relentless. But why wouldn't it be? It's beyond me that you wouldn't. We're selling people's most valuable asset. Don't worry about training for that. Just go crack on, see what you can achieve. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I just like to be better at stuff. And so culturally, we've built that into everything we do. But Northfields, that's where I learned that, I think.
Why do you want to be better? Is it egotistical?
It's probably a bit of ego. It's probably a bit of insecurity.
Are you a perfectionist?
Perfectionist stroke, fiercely competitive. So I won't let perfection get in the way of winning. But I've tried to apply that. So I played lots of amateur sports. Really, I'm just an average performer, but I enjoy sports. And so I apply lots of what works on the sports field to business. And, on the sports field, you're there to win the sport in what we're doing. We're there to win what we're doing. If it's getting property under offer to a client, if it's winning an instruction that we know we can sell, whatever it might be.
Winning at all cost?
No, not all cost. I mean, are we talking about moral issues here?
Well, it's a grey area, isn't it?
Well, it's a horrible grey area, yeah. So that really frustrates me about some of the content I see out there, that for some reason our industry, and possibly it's the same in other sales industries, but why you can't be an outright top performer that wants to win at all costs, but will not cross a line. I don't know why that needs to be a thing, but clearly it is, because you've asked me that question and I see it all the time. So no, I don't think we need to, I don't know, what's the right language? We don't need to cheat, we don't need to do the wrong thing, we don't need to reduce our fees, we don't need to undersell, we don't need to overprice, we don't need to do any of this stuff. We just need to get better and achieve better.
We're going to do some separate videos on fees and things like that, standalone topics, which will be on my YouTube channel, so do check them out. But coming back to your story, you went through senior lettings neg to lettings manager, but by two years later, you decided to set up your own agency. How old were you at that point?
25.
You'd been in the agency 3 years and you wanted to set up your own agency.
Well, I guess the short answer is yes. Mm-hmm. I'd already, for years, I thought at some point, whether ego-driven or sort of maybe looking over your shoulder at, as I said, my granddad, mum's dad, a very, very successful business person. We don't really have much of a relationship with him, but maybe the competitiveness, I'm not sure.
But your dad was also a self-employed scaffolder.
He was, yeah, and
I mean,
yeah,
you
maybe I'm not.
you don't win competitions or put pie charts out for the number of scaffolds you put out, although that's maybe a good marketing
No,
technique.
I mean, so actually, he doesn't talk about it, but I know my dad went into business years ago with a partner, and then the partner disappeared with everything. And then he went back to, I'm going to, sensible, comfortable, not be employed because you're never actually employed, but work for somebody else. But yeah, no, I think I knew from a young age that I wanted to set up my own business, probably back then for the wrong reasons.
What were those reasons at the time? Fast cars, fast women, and the rest you'd waste?
Not necessarily. I've always liked being in charge. I'm a good organiser.
Are you a sort of person who is very good with macro, big picture stuff, but winds you up with the small stuff?
No, I'm very systems orientated.
Okay.
We've got a system and a process for everything.
But do you like getting involved with the systems?
I like building them, delivering them initially, and then stepping back and letting everyone use them.
Okay.
But bigger picture, I like looking at growth. I like strategy. So if you would say, do you prefer the tactics or the strategy? I'm not sure if I could answer.
Do you like setting the strategy, going in, sorting the tactics, and going back to strategy?
To an extent, I mean, back then, no, actually, you know what? I can't remember.
Okay.
But right now, I think I enjoy a lot of it. I enjoy all of it. There are the niggly things that fall into tactics, that fall into systems that are dull, which, I begrudge anyone to tell me that they enjoy doing the very dull stuff. But I like bigger picture. I like looking at growth. I like looking at how we can expand, where we can go, different things we can offer, the innovation, that sort of stuff.
Would it be fair to say that on the disc profile you're a classic D? With a bit of C in you? And a bit of I in you as well?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. DIC, don't like that, but...
CID, we'll do that.
Not sure if that's any better. Yeah, possibly.
I mean, what's your biggest fear? Being taken advantage of by others, or rejection of others, or being criticised for not being perfect?
It's difficult because I wouldn't necessarily define it as fear.
Okay.
What do I dislike the most? Might
Okay.
be a better way to define it.
Out of those three, which ones has
Okay, go on,
greater
give me the three
resilience?
again.
Being taken advantage of by others, rejection of others, or being criticised by others?
What do I dislike the most? I dislike the idea of someone taking advantage of us.
Okay, which is more of a D type. Again, I know, do check this out, boys and girls. It's disc profiling. It's fantastic. You can get inside someone's head.
It's because the dislike, the others, I think I have complete control over.
Yes.
So there's less risk, there's less concern. Whereas someone trying to take advantage of me or the business or my family, that's going to infuriate me more than anything else, but still reasonably controllable.
Do you think that's why you didn't go into business with someone else at Thorgills? Because A, of that, and B, also your father got his fingers burnt?
No, actually, I think it's just the way everything played out at the time. So I left Northfields. I did have a patch where I didn't know actually, do I want to go into business on my own? Is it the right time? Northfields, at Northfields, I opened or sort of reopened or relaunched one of their lettings branches, and in a reasonably short period of time, we got it to the point where it was almost on parity with some of the other branches. And I was sort of the blue-eyed boy, and that's quite a nice feeling. That's good. That's great. I was thinking, how have you managed to do this so quickly? And elements of skill, elements of luck, elements of putting the right team together. Applying some basic systems and processes that weren't there previously. We're not curing cancer here. We're listing properties and we're renting them. So when I left Northfields, there was a bit of a grey area. I thought I'll go for it. I have just done it over here.
So was it a lettings only agency that you started, or lettings and estate agency?
So we opened 2008 full service. We're going to do letting. So we're going to, that old classic, we're going to be specialists in lettings, specialists in property management, and specialists in sales, like every agent in the UK. How can you specialise in three things?
And
so
you were local as well and professional.
Well, of course. We just missed that we hadn't won the awards yet. That's all we needed. And then we had we've got the standard estate agent playbook. So we were going to go full service. sort of.
How were those early days? I mean,
Well, so-
the housing market had just gone, well, if it hadn't, it was just about to go pop.
So it just went pop 3 months after we opened.
Wow, squeaky bum time.
Well, yeah, a little bit, yeah. So we're 3 months in. When I opened, I had 2 guys with me, really good, 3 of us, really nice team. When I say nice team, I don't mean happy, clappy, nice to each other. I mean the team complemented each other really well. Everyone was brought great strengths, very good salespeople, and I think there's a lot of conversation about what is a great salesperson, and we're not allowed to be salespeople anymore. We have to help people on their journey. The people that help the most people on their journey are great salespeople. So I had 2 very good guys, and we'd had a couple of our 3rd month. I couldn't believe how well it had gone, and we needed an extra pair of hands. So we recruited a 3rd member of the team, or 4th, including myself, and the market went pop. And that was bad times because we'd recruited, we've got 4 of us in a room, we're paying commercial rent, we've got all these other charges. And what are we going to do?
Had you married at this point, got a house yourself?
No, so, I mean, I lived in a 2-bedroom flat. I owned that 2-bedroom flat and had done for probably about a year at that time. So I had a mortgage to pay, but that wasn't really my major concern. Actually, you know what? I was just young and naive. Looking back, I just decided we're going to work this out, and we did. We specialised in lettings.
What was your lowest point in the 08-09 crash, and what did you learn from it?
So, in truth, whilst we had all these fixed overheads, we had enough in the kitty for me to believe that this wasn't going to knock us sideways. So I don't remember 08-09 actually losing masses of sleep. I was maybe overly confident, which at 25,
The naivety of youth, although that probably helped you.
Well, I think, looking back, setting up a business at that time required us to pivot, what a buzzword, required us to be more resilient. So we were sales, lettings, property management. As it happens, we're 3 months in. We've only focused on lettings initially anyway. We haven't done any work in the sales area. So you know what? Let's just take the sales off the website, rebrand ourselves as a letting specialist, and see where that takes us. And it took us to a great place.
Because there was, in 08-09, a lot of properties came on the market for rent because people didn't want to sell at a loss or a perceived loss. So you caught the wave and did really well in West London.
Well, we did. I mean, looking at my experience, you've already pointed out how little experience I had when I set up, but the vast majority of it was lettings. It was, I was a deal maker, I was able to list properties, and I was able to effectively, I think, introduce clients to the business and maintain those relationships. So I didn't need to be a business owner at that point. I just needed to be someone that was driving the branch. And so that's what we did. We focused really heavily on only on letting. Sales was removed, as I said, and that ensured that we didn't skip a beat.
So that was 08-09, 10, 11. I mean, eventually you got to a point where you had 4 or 5 branches.
We were a 5-branch business within probably 8 years.
Everybody says that the 2nd or 3rd branch is the most difficult one. Which one was which opening? What number was the worst for you?
I mean, everyone's got their own experiences. This is what will work. This will work in your area. I know from a national perspective. I don't subscribe to any of that. Everyone has their own experiences, and I can't give advice to someone that doesn't work in West London. I can only advise you on what works in West London right now. And even if I tell you what worked 10 years ago, the world has come a long way. So in our experience, our model was we take a very small unit in a new area. That new area, we normally had some coverage from our existing branch footprint. So branch number 1, when we opened branch number 2, which was in 2 years, so it shows you how 2008 wasn't a massive issue for us. Within 2 years, we were operating from 2 locations, tiny little branches. Only fit 4 people in them, maybe 5 people. And in our head, we thought, we'll take those, then when we've got big enough market share, we'll expand into bigger units. So we were signing 3-year commercial leases. So that sort of worked. Looking back, it meant we were paying for refurbishing 2 offices within 3 to 4 years, which not great, but as a small business, you do what you got to do. So the first 4 branches went beautifully, or 4 locations. We had good crossover. We were doing business in all the locations before we opened in those locations. And then the fifth location, as opposed to the fifth branch, is what broke us. And it was really, we had very little crossover. We were doing only a tiny amount of business in the area before we opened. And it was really, so we are West London specialists, West London and Middlesex actually. And the fifth branch was Hammersmith, which is almost central West London. And it's just a different approach, it's a different market. And winning new clients at the time we opened up, there was, I wouldn't say the market had contracted, nothing quite that extreme, but it was a much more difficult fight. And that also, small things that impact the business. When you open a new branch, you put good people in there, don't you? You pull people from other teams.
I was about to say, did you parachute in an existing member of staff into the new one, or did you get external people?
Yeah, well, we never recruited management externally. Sorry, that's an exaggeration. In our time, we did it three times. When we launched sales, which was 7 years after opening, none of us had the relevant sales experience to launch, so we recruited a sales manager. A friend of mine, I'd been friends with him for 10 years. We used to play football together. He worked at he worked at KFH, which is good business in London. It was a perfect fit. As it happens, it was not a perfect fit. Daniel hopefully will watch this video at some point. Daniel was a fantastic estate agent, but he's got to be the most direct people manager I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was an interesting journey. He's now in Australia and moved over there with his family, but he was a fantastic estate agent. I wouldn't change any of this, by the way. Bringing him in, he launched sales for us, and we needed him at the time. And to satisfy my fears of bringing in somebody I didn't know at a management level, he was the perfect fit. We recruited a manager to manage our sort of back office function. But to be fair, that was Fiona. She'd already worked for us in a past life, and she was brought back in.
The people that you promoted, apart from Daniel, got your culture.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, when we launched this fifth location, we put in a very good manager. We put in a couple of lettings brokers.
Because normally people say it's the people that make the difference. By this time, it wasn't necessarily the people, it was the location.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I've said it a couple of times, I wouldn't change things. Actually, if we hadn't have opened this fifth location, I think what we're talking about now would be so different.
Do you think you'd still own the business?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I know we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because we put some very good people into that new location, and the existing locations naturally lost some of their best big hitters, and that meant that things just weren't operating at full tilt in those existing locations, and the new location was astonishingly tough. I based myself there, egomaniac statement, like I'm going to make a huge difference, but I put myself there with them, and we just couldn't get it consistently doing what I needed to do. And so yeah, that was in terms of. I don't think it was going from 4 branches to 5. I think it was the 5th branch in that location. If we'd have put a 5th branch in another location that was on our shortlist, which we had a lot more crossover in, I think it'd be a very different story.
A good lesson to be learned, everyone, boys and girls. So how long did you give Hammersmith before you decided we need to make a change?
It's all a bit vague, but roughly we were in 2017, we moved in, gave it a good year, more than a year. So this expansion strategy I came up with, which I came up with it. I had 2 senior managers in the business, and the 3 of us would make the vast majority of the very top level decisions together. So I remember being on holiday with my wife and coming back, and this is before we had kids, holiday was a holiday, and talking to them and saying, like, I want to launch, I want us to be a 10-branch business across West London. We're going to have what we're going to call something along the lines of neighbourhood branches. But we're not going to put our sales forces in these branches. We're going to allow the general public and the community to use the branches they see fit. We'll have some guys in there, but not the sales force. What we're going to do, so you can imagine a map. We've got 10 locations across the map. And in 3 key areas, we're going to have sales sites, and we'll have all the sales force. So one site will hold the sales force for 3 locations, and so with the other 2. And within those locations, you'll have maybe a sales director, a lettings director. Under them, you'll have 3 heads, because in each site, you've got 3 branches covered. And all those branches all cover a number of postcodes. So I had this massive expansion strategy. We're going to bring these people in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I remember saying to them, let's avoid the major concerns, because we know the major concerns. Growing pains are tough. Finding the right commercial units are difficult. Expanding our market share is going to be challenging. We know the difficulties, but imagine if this goes to plan. Imagine how strong it could be. In this geography, we've got 10 branches and we've got these amazing.
And were you saying this before Hammersmith, or was
This is
Hammersmith?
before Hammersmith.
Hammersmith was
this
the
is a
first.
couple of years. Hammersmith was the first step. So
Okay.
we're a 4-brancher, but our 4 branches are all in a few miles of each other. We're not covering the whole of West London. We've got a nice tight pack. Hammersmith was the first step into this new, let's get to 10. And
Is that so you could go down the big swinging dick estate agency, so you could hold your head up high, and when you go to the A master saying there's Ben Matt?
I don't know, yeah, maybe some of it. There's an element of ego. There's an element of insecurity. I just want to outperform. Maybe some people that I've interacted with that I don't like, that are growing quicker than me. There's a few things, but it's fun, and I did find it fun. I loved the idea of growing and finding new ways.
Were you getting bored by having the 4 branches and just almost it was running itself almost too well?
It's difficult to say. No, I wasn't bored. Recruiting and retaining good people was an ever-evolving challenge. I remember saying to my dad repeatedly, property is easy, finding the right people is what's tough. And when we're expanding so quickly, we're constantly recruiting. Very rarely were we recruiting for someone having left, although people did leave. It's not to say we were...
You said earlier on that training was important. Do you think that created a lot of stickiness with staff?
Yes, yeah, for sure. But it's not specifically the training, it's everything that goes with it, isn't it? It's the interactions, it's the banter, it's the fun, it's the fact that the managing director, who owns the business, is here once a week, calling people out, having a laugh, doing silly things that ensure we're absolutely... I sound like but we're the top operators.
I visited your branch, it'd be 17, 18, 20, and there was a good atmosphere in the office. You could tell there were, a bit of banter and a bit of laughter. I can remember picking up on that.
Yeah, listen, so if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and I hate all the cliches, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing, specifically in sales, then you're not going to have a good operation. So everyone's got to enjoy what they're doing. And I want to make it all naff and cheesy, but the team have got to click. They've got to click with line managers, although we use terms like that actually in business. But everyone's got to come in together. Everyone's got to do it for the right reasons. Right reasons is a difficult, because I completely appreciate that people have also got to put dinner on the table. So the right reason for someone might be pay the mortgage, put dinner on the table. Hasn't always got to be things like, I just want to help people move on with the next stage. It doesn't have to be cheesy comments like that, but they've got to believe in doing it the right way, want to do it the right way, and try and do it better. And that's quite a challenging mix to find, and that's why we didn't recruit estate agents.
We'll talk about that further in some standalone videos. Let's bring it back to the fact that you had this grand plan to go 10 branch network, more spread out over not necessarily your part of the W3, W5 postcodes, but much into the NW postcodes and probably even south of the river, who knows. You opened up Hammersmith, you gave it a good 12, 18 months. What was the straw that broke the camel's back where you said, actually, we need to sort this out?
So we're in quarter 4 2018. We've recruited, and we're at maximum occupancy. We've got 60 to 65 team members in a business that's 10 years old. Overheads are what they are, but it's starting to come together. It's clicking. Every team is doing what it needs to do. We had, across the 5 locations, so we've got lettings in all locations. We've got sales in 3 locations, and we have a letting satellite team who are working on our next location, building up a bit of a pipeline. And it's clicked. And it's not pat yourself on the back time, but me and the 2 senior managers are saying things like, oh, we got it right. About time. We've got something right. But
Hammersmith still being a pain in the backside?
No, Hammersmith is coming together. So quarter 4, Hammersmith came together. We had 3 months where the invoicing levels where they needed to be, the stock was coming on, the sun was shining, and we're very, very pleased with where we are. For the first time, I took the two guys on we call it a management retreat. Went to a spa. I don't like spas. Took them to a spa, and we had a whole day planning for the future off-site. Normally, we would do it somewhere local, but I thought, let's do it overnight. Let's do something a bit different. Other businesses said we tried this. We were planning for the future, and we were in agreement that whilst that year was quite tough because of all the growth, the last 3 months have proven that this can work. The next 3 months were a horror show. It just didn't click. We had some human resources issues.
Did anything change, or was it just the winds went in a different direction?
I think the business we were doing in Hammersmith maybe papered over some cracks. By cracks, sorry, maybe that's not exactly the right language. What I mean is we pulled in a couple of big deals that maybe distort the data. So you think, we're going to, if we can do that in a 3-month period, we'll do that next quarter and the following quarter. And it just didn't happen. And then 2 other locations, things just sort of dried up. And by dried up, I don't mean overnight we went from doing lots of business to no business, but the business levels you needed to do, I see, looking back now, as each branch has got to see itself as its own sort of standalone business. It's got to pay its way, it's got to contribute profits to the business, it's got to pay for the back office support we use. And 2 branches, great. 2 branches all of a sudden become a bit mediocre. And then Hammersmith, it just didn't happen. And so all of a sudden in a 3-month period, we were extremely stretched to the point where if we don't make a drastic decision, we're looking down the wrong end of the barrel of a gun. So we had to make a tough decision.
Can you remember the time? Was it at 3 o'clock in the morning one night where the penny dropped?
No, I can't give you the specific moment. I know I was based in branch 5, based in Hammersmith, and I got in my downstairs sort of basement office, and on my big whiteboard there were some notes and some details. I won't get too specific, but I remember looking at that and thinking, we're now approaching this, we're going to need to make a tough decision. So I met with my 2 senior managers, went for a Chinese and said, we're too slapdash with the cash, where, some of the incentives we were providing to the team, some of the, I was big on incentives and looking after the team, and we had this real tight-knit group, and in my view that worked, but maybe we were a bit too flash with some of it, and I said we need to tighten the purse strings in a few areas. This was maybe 2 months in to 2019. So we agreed that we need to pull on here, and as long as things start to improve, we'll be fine. And a month later, things hadn't improved. We were in the same position. Saving the pennies here and there take a bit of a while to make a difference. We needed the invoicing to catch up, and the invoicing didn't catch up. And so at the end of Q1 2019, we made the decision that we're going to have to restructure.
What did that look like?
It looked like reducing at the time, so the branch 5, we were a 5-branch business. One of those branches was a tiny little unit and had been returned. We were going to move into a bigger unit. It looked like not taking that bigger unit anymore. So we're 4 branches, and it looked like turning us from a 4-branch business into a 1-branch business. 1 super branch, absolutely jam-packed with team members, but covering more or less the same geography, and reducing our overheads. It was extraordinarily tough.
Did you have to lose staff?
We did, yeah, and that was horrendous.
How did it make you feel?
Yeah, awful, yeah.
Did everyone get jobs?
Of course, yeah.
Of course, they're well trained.
Well, I mean...
No one's ever made you redundant, have they?
No.
Did they take it well?
I don't know, maybe well is... I
it's
I
not
remember
like
some of the conversations were more difficult than others. Bear in mind, some of the guys I've got extended relationships with. One of the guys plays on my rugby team. Back then, not now. Far too old to be contact sport. So it was more than anything. It sounds awful, but I found it maybe tougher than they did.
I've had to make people redundant myself, and you're absolutely right. What advice would you give to someone doing that in hindsight, what you've learned?
So some advice I give to my own team all the time is don't overthink things. I'm not saying underthink them. Give it the appropriate amount of thought, and then just get on with it. I in the back of my mind, I genuinely believed that everyone, if I gave them the news today, tomorrow they could have a job, because we all know estate agents recruitment policy. You've got estate agent experience on your CV, in you come. So, and I was confident that not only would they get jobs, they'd get jobs and they'd be top performers wherever they went, and some of them ended up being that. So, but it doesn't stop how you feel in the moment, does it? You know, you could be the most pragmatic man on the planet. The truth is, you're telling someone you care about that they don't have a job here anymore. So it was tough, it was challenging, it was unpleasant. I did it all in one day. Everyone I needed to speak to, and then I brought the entire company together at 5 p.m. on the same day to say what you see around you in this room is what's left of the company. Only 4 people in the business knew that was happening before that day. There were 2 senior managers and my ex-head of human resources and compliance. And that was the toughest meeting I've ever done. Telling the entire team, firstly, that my business strategy had failed. Secondly, that it's failed to the point where people that were part of this team yesterday are not part of this team tomorrow. So it was a rough period, but get the violin out. It's not about me. The business moved forward.
Yeah, how did the remaining team take it? Because often they say the issues with them.
The team that were left in the business,
Yep.
they, the meeting finished on an extreme high, because the team are looking around. I think they're probably thinking, this is going to be amazing. We've gone from this business model that involved 4, 5, 6 of us in a branch, and that was okay, but we only worked on maybe one section of the properties available within this entire business, and maybe some of them thought that they had more to give if they were given a bigger opportunity. And so when we restructured, we set the business up as we're going from 3 sales teams to 1 sales team, and you're going to cover a larger landmass, but we're going to focus really heavily on where we're the specialists, and that's Brentford. We're going to have 2 lettings teams. We're going to have our Brentford lettings team. Now, Brentford, you've been to Brentford, it's a small town, 16,000 residential units. But the beauty in Brentford from an estate perspective is not a lot of competition. So our market leaders, it's 75% apartments, 25% houses. And so from a rental perspective, lots of international investors purchase new builds in the area. So we're talking about management fees, we're talking about great fees, we're talking about lots of opportunity, we're talking about long-term lets. So we're going to have a Brentford team, and we're going to have a satellite team, which in essence work the areas around Brentford. And I think everyone at that time, the sales force certainly thought, it's going to be pretty bloody good. We've got more opportunity here, and we're going to work in an environment where it is going to be full on, because I'm going to be based there, the lettings director's there, the head of sales is there. You've got the most senior people in the room, in the business, all in one room. The intensity, the environment was like nothing I've ever witnessed.
And did it work out?
Yeah, it did. When we made this decision, and I put it forward to the team, and obviously the different people that exited the business had the same conversation, very honest, open, transparent. It's all on me. My strategy has failed us, and I'm sorry that we found the position we're in. My strategy, my idea around growth is just too much too quick. And you see these large businesses that are expanding rapidly, they've just got deeper pockets, and we've tried to do it in too short a period of time. So there was lots of apologising for that, and I would have liked it for it to have gone a different way and not, had to have those difficult conversations, not because they hurt me, just because of, exactly what it is. But in truth, the other side to the coin is that I spent most of my days in this basement office in Hammersmith. You're running a 5-branch business, and I was heavily involved in.
Okay, so you restructured the business. You got rid of, unfortunately, some staff members, but thankfully they went and found other jobs. And you brought everyone together in one branch in Brentford. I know on the sideline you already started a Fine and Country operation. Whereabouts was that?
So we took, Fine and Country was 2018. So this is when we're on this growth strategy. And from a sales perspective, we'd always struggled with getting into the more expensive properties.
So you decided to go for a Fine and Country licence?
Correct. And that was...
And you're running that out of the 4 or 5 branches then?
Sort of. So I make this really naff joke that we make our timing is absolutely awful. We launched the business in 2008. 3 months later, the market crashes. We launched sales 1 year later. Brexit strikes, and so we've got all our sales overheads, and the market starts to slow. With Finding Country, we decided we would take it for the entire geography that we covered across West London, because obviously that makes sense, right? And this is the third person that we brought in who was as a manager. We recruited someone at a management level in the estate agency, and it just didn't go well. We brought in someone to set it up for us, because anyone who's part of Finding Country will know this, anyone who's been part of it in the past. Finding Country is quite a daunting looking business because they offer so much. There's the proposition is quite intense. There's different kinds of marketing. There's different kinds of advertising. There's gold packs. There's silver packs, or there used to be. There's Refined magazine, Excuse Homes Worldwide magazine. There's the Collection magazine. There's a lot to take on board. And back then they had a computer system that it's updated now and it's much better. But back then, a little bit clunky and not necessarily as intuitive as it could be. So how are we going to run this? Let's bring someone in who knows what they're doing. Because everything we've been told is you go find a country and the business comes to you. Anyway, fast forward. That was a disaster. I didn't, maybe I learned a lesson there.
This was a disaster whilst Hammersmith was being a disaster as well.
Yeah, Finding Country is only contributing to the disaster. It's not bringing anything positive to the situation. We've brought somebody in. He hasn't worked out. He doesn't align with our business, our strategy, our thought process at all. We purely recruited him on the fact that he had F&C, Finding Country, on his CV. And in my entire life, I've never done that. And I'll never do it again. But you live and you learn. So that didn't work out. He exited the business. And we said, you know what? Our sales guys are really good. We're going to get them to wear both hats. You guys are going to work Thorgills and Finding Country. You'll have 2 business cards, 2 emails, all that jazz. And of course, day one, everyone's enthusiastic. That sounds wonderful. Wow, Finding Country, these big deals, these big properties, that sounds amazing. The truth is, to get Finding Country off the ground, you're going to have to put 6 to 12 months worth of work in to build any sort of market share and do any business.
What, playing the long game? Whoa, wow.
Well, how do you convince a salesperson that can work for Thorgills and do business today, tomorrow, at the weekend, to move away from that and focus their energy on the stuff they're going to do business on in 6 to 12 months? We had systems in place to do it, but of course it's impacting our culture, because we're saying to someone who could go be really successful right now or at 2 p.m, no, I need you to focus on something where it might come to fruition in 6 to 12 months. And so in hindsight, it was just unfair to ask a sales force to do both things. So that was all going on around the time when we were restructuring. So we get to May 2019, we restructure, we're a 1 branch Thorgills, and I say to the 2 team members at Thorgills who are perfect for Finding Country, will you 2 set up Finding Country as a standalone? They say yes, and absolute roaring success. Right people doing it in the right way, separating the business so they run independently of each other. But the success, 2 absolutely, is the perfect team. Reg, who you may have met, you'll meet on Friday, charming, charismatic, fantastic salesperson, but also comfortable to interact with what the sort of standard Finding Country demographic is. He's about the same age as me, and so he's not, I don't know, people watch this might think it's a bit douchebag saying, but he's not one of the kids who's fresh out. He's got enough experience in the game to have a proper conversation, not a get in, get out conversation. You know, Finding Country, putting the proposition forward as part of a market appraisal is the best part of an hour at least. So you've got to have the relevant experience. We partnered him with Andrew turned 60 last month. He's public school boy, local boy, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. He's the least salesy salesperson you'll ever meet in your life. He's, in my view, and he will find this insulting. I don't mean it insulting. I say all the time. He's not a salesperson. He's just a fantastic communicator.
Would it be fair to say, I mean, people don't like to be sold to, but yet they love to buy, and probably people buy from him?
You know what? It's not even, you're right, people who, I mean, of the exception, I love being sold to because it's a great recruitment opportunity. But he's just a very, very caring human being. And so he just wants to help them get the best. And we don't put him in a situation where he's tendering for business necessarily, because that's really not where his skill set aligns. But So his role within the business right now, he's a client relationship manager because he's the master of managing these relationships.
That's what we're in. We're in the relationship game, aren't we?
We are, absolutely. But I guess most people don't see it. They see it more transactional. And don't get me wrong, it's not to say that there isn't a transactional element to what we do.
But it is but the clever estate agents, the smart estate agents, the ones that are more successful, see it as a relationship based, not a transactional based.
Well, they do. And, to go one layer deeper, that relationship comes from communication. And I think that's the major issue we have in this industry, is that we forgot that we have to communicate with people. If you took a straw poll, how many people on the market right now have heard from their agent in the last 7 days? It's terrifying. Absolutely insane that we're not communicating with current clients more regularly, prospective clients more regularly. And so he's a fantastic communicator. I mean, apart from things like his charm and his vocabulary are astonishing, and he's travelled the world, we see this and that, but he can have a conversation with you about absolutely anything. So those two guys set it up. They're a perfect combination, and they got extreme success within 9 months.
So why did you sell Thorgills? I know you've gone in and put both feet in with Fine and Country and buggering it up for them to seem to be having a good party. Then the boss comes on because he sold his cash cow and needs something to do.
Well, I think I've got about 1 million answers to that question. Why did I sell? So I've got 3 young daughters, 6, 2 and 5 months.
I mean, you're 38, about to turn 39. You basically went through the quagmire by having multiple branches and they didn't work. You brought it back. Sure, okay, you've got a little pet project in Fine and Country. Sorted yourself out, rocking and rolling. I'd understand if you were 59. Or did someone just come waving a big checkbook and you thought, this will just... Had you lost the love for Thorgills?
It's not necessarily... So, look, there's a load of things. So first, I'm quite intense. I know I've come across as very calm and collected, sitting here on the sofa, but I want to be involved in all of it, and I can't turn that off, and I've come to terms with that, and I won't ever try and turn it off because it's just not who I am. So at Thorgills, even though we had a managing director in the new setup and it was running really, really well, and we were very happy with it.
Don't tell me you're putting your oar in all the time.
Well, I still do all the training, all the coaching, I do mentor sessions.
Okay. Would it be a classic case of you had a dog but barked yourself?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, the managing director manages the day-to-day, right? So I'm still involved in the bigger picture, and I'm in the room. We're all in the room, so there's no hiding from the fact that the business owner and the managing director are here, and the sales force. Okay, let's do this, let's do that, and they talk to the managing director and they glance over at me, and then it's a bit of opinion from both sides.
Yeah, but then it's your responsibility to go back to your MD. As I said, you don't have a dog and bark yourself.
You don't, but I would argue. So in that specific setup, it worked really well. So Daniel Madden was the managing director at Thorgills, same surname.
Not relation.
No, coincidence.
Wow.
Strange.
I thought it was your brother.
Everyone does. And so we decided 6 months ago we're going to just start telling everyone we're brothers, because firstly it's easy and secondly it's a good story.
Bloody is. It's not true though.
No, it's not. So we don't do the estate agency thing and just fugazi. He was the recruit that came in after 3 months in 2008. So he's been with me the full 13 years. And we're best mates, each other's best mans. We were best men at each other's weddings. Or, no, sorry, we were both, neither of us were best men. We were both ushers. Bit of an exaggeration there. That's.
Do you think there might be, it'd be interesting to see if there is a family connection if you went back?
Well, here, I've got something even stranger. Our dads work together.
No. How spooky is that?
And, yeah, it's weird. It's pretty strange. So, yeah, I mean, to look at us, people would say, if we say we're brothers, people believe that, absolutely. Both got a little bit extra around the cheeks and that glint in the eye, That
nothing
thing,
wrong with that.
Absolutely. So, look, back to why I set off Thorgills. I was still heavily involved in running Thorgills and I couldn't turn that off. And so running Thorgills, growing Fine and Country, looking after the kids. And I say looking after the kids, like, I'm not, what I mean is being present and with the kids. Saturdays, I still couldn't help myself. I still want to get in there and see what's going on Saturday, where I know lots, maybe would say, well, the weekends is family time. Yeah, so that was, you know, the being involved, and even though it was set up and working really well,
Do you think you might have you were beginning to self-sabotage in subconsciously, just to make yourself feel wanted and loved? But I see it where, especially because you're a D type, you like to be in control. A lot of people turn their business. I've seen it all the time with estate agents. They turn their businesses in where they make themselves redundant, but then all of a sudden they fear because they're not part of it. Subconsciously, they kind of put the spoke, the thing in the wheel, so they have to be
valuable.
Yeah, to be almost firefighting and brought back in.
No, I mean, look, if you consider the timing as well. So May 2019, we restructure. Tough period, really tough period, because we've closed 3 physical locations. We've brought all the team in. We're learning how to run a business that operated from 4 locations and now it's 1. And I decided that I was going to be the glue in that scenario, because it's quite easy for the sales force to become disillusioned by what's going on. So I sat in the middle of the entire sales force and did 6 months of my best work at recreating our culture. This is what we are. This is how we're going to operate. This is who we are. This is how we're going to do business.
And did that work?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So you were flying along and then COVID hit.
Exactly. Yeah, so timeline, 2019, May 2019, we've got 7-8 months, and we get to the end of the year, and I feel like that's probably the roughest 12 months I've had in business, certainly. But it's all right. We're over the hill now. We've done it. We have got, look at the unit, how well they're operating together. This new system, this is the future of a estate agency right here. We've got 1 location covering 10 postcodes. And it's fun. I mean, genuinely fun. Some days you go into a small business, someone's on annual leave, someone calls in sick, so there's 2 of you in all day. I need to go on appointment. So you're in the office all down your own. That is not fun. I don't care who you are. So we've now got an environment with 35 people sitting in it. There's never a spare minute. I mean, don't get me wrong, actually, trying to get my own work done, that work where you need some focus time, absolutely impossible. But in terms of business generation and return, I would say it's second to none, but in my experience. So we get to the start of 2020, and there's some people are catching the flu over on the other side of the world, and I'm saying to people, it's the flu, relax, it's fine. We've just been through this. We're on for a great year, and 2 months later, we're not on for a great year. And at that point, so I've had some difficult conversations over the last year. I need to pull the team together and say, you know what we've just been through? We've now got to close the business. But because of what we've just been through, we've got no money in the coffers. We're in a really tricky position here. We've just spent the last 9 months trying to get things off the books. We don't have enough in the business to be, we're not liquid for more than 2 to 3 months at best. And I remember that was an emotional meeting. The others have been tough. This was an emotional one, not just tough, because right now I've been through 12 months of, I don't make it about me, but a very tough 12-month period. And I've got to look all these 30, 35 people in the eyes and say, I don't know what we're going to do. Because my job is, as a business owner, is to protect you guys. I don't know how I'm going to protect you at this point on. You spend, as a business owner, I think people will relate to this, that you protect people from themselves, but you also provide protection that I'll always be there for you when you need me.
Who was there for you?
One of the business owners, so I don't see it in that way. I see I'm there, and that's me, and it's just for me to deal with. I'm old school in that respect.
Okay.
And so I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but I'll just lock that away and just got to deal with it. I don't want to put it on the table at home because my wife wouldn't react well to it.
Was your wife aware of this business situation?
Yeah, so my wife Paulina is on maternity right now. She ran our accounts, so she knows everything that's going on. But I'm desperately trying to keep the risk, the problems that are, we're 2 to 3 months away from major issues. I don't want to be. I just got to fix it, and so that's just how I looked at it. So that was a very emotional meeting, and I said to the guys, at this moment in time, I have to tell you that I don't have a solution for us, but I will find one. And I said, if I can't, I asked what can be done, and within 20 minutes, I had emails from the team saying, look, I can live without the money. I don't need to be paid for a couple of months. And that was intense, receiving that I mean,
Because I'm assuming at this point, things like furlough hadn't been
correct, yeah. We've always been very open. Everyone in the company knows what's going on. It's just, we're all in one room. So I don't subscribe to let's just hide stuff over here and then give it to the team. Everyone plays their part. So I had to hold this meeting before the furlough stuff had been, because there's conversation happening all the time. And I wanted to tell people where we were and what was, where we are up to this point. That was on a Tuesday, and on a Friday they announced furlough. Friday evening, Rishi, we were watching it on the screen, and the relief that washed over me, it was like nothing I've ever experienced. So that everyone's now, it's Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock. He's just announced this. The business, subject to T's and C's, the business will survive. Everyone's going to be okay. It's all right. We'll make it happen. If he hadn't have announced that, I honestly don't know. And I appreciate other businesses were in the same position. I've spoken to lots and lots of people since. But it's it felt like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle for that sort of maybe 18-month period.
Was that the straw that broke the camel's back to decide? Because obviously we were locked down for a period of about 10, 12 weeks, and then things came back and the market was rocketing. It was really good.
Yeah, so look, have you got your violin? Because I'm relentless at the moment with the negativity here. But when we came out of lockdown, as I mentioned earlier on, Brentford, our core patch is 75% apartments. No one wants to move into an apartment.
No.
So we didn't experience this boom period that others did, because we were selling properties that people didn't want to live in anymore. Add to that, the Brentford market was extremely impacted by the cladding scandal. Huge swathes of blocks in the area people just couldn't move out of. So we didn't have quite the same experience as others. And also, I would fight the corner of London and cities that they didn't have the same experience as more rural locations across the country. Certainly much busier.
Of course, a lot of people moved out of London, didn't they?
Well, they wanted to. It's where they could find a buyer to take their property in London, because you've got to find the people to come in first or move within. And so, sort of post-lockdown one, we were very, very cautious with how we brought people back. We got maybe, I think it was 33 or 34 of us, depending on things like maternity leave at the time when we went on. When we came back from lockdown one, we launched with, I think, 5 or 6 of us, and gradually reintroduced people. But we were doing all sorts of stuff during lockdown. We did so much charity work in lockdown, which we ended up getting known for in the local area. From a commercial perspective, it's great because you've got people walking into your premises to drop stuff off for charity and stuff like that. We kept ourselves busy, really, is what I'm saying, with lockdown. Even though we couldn't do business, we kept 4 or 5 people working throughout lockdown because we had a reasonable sized management portfolio. So we need to make sure the clients are managed and the properties are managed, but we're all working from home to do that. And then when we came back, we were very, very cautious, and we reintroduced a very small portion of the sales force because we don't know what's going to go. Lettings picked up reasonably quickly. Sales, it was okay, but we decided we needed to probably get a little bit creative. And so, as I said, Brentford is a very apartment-driven market. The next town along Isleworth is 3-bedroom terrace houses. So we said, let's branch out. And so we really quickly expanded into Isleworth. We made some changes to roles. In fact, post-lockdown, we made a lot of changes to roles. So we were a traditional model, I think, agency for a lot. We had lettings brokers or sales brokers, that's what we call negotiators. We had a support team that looked after pre-tenancy and deal management, property marketing, renewals, accounts. Post-lockdown, we split the negotiator role. We had a team of associates and a team of brokers, and the associate would take the inbound leads, would manage the applicants on a day-to-day basis on the phones, over email, and get as many viewings scheduled as possible. And the brokers would be out there completing the viewings. And so it split the work rate, but it increased the efficiency of what we were able to achieve, which in turn drove better output. So when we came out of lockdown, we looked at the first couple of months. Look at what we're managing to achieve with less people. Let's do it like this. And I mean, it took a bit of tweaking, but that worked really well. Second half of 2019.
You still haven't answered my question. You came out of lockdown. Okay, you made some changes. Brentford wasn't brilliant in terms of the market. Why did you sell? Because the thing sounded like things were going in the right direction.
The business was moving in the right direction, but as I say, there's no one quick answer here. It's lots of little things.
Did you go looking, or did they come to you?
In early in lockdown 1, I made inquiries because I'm thinking, we need to consider all options.
So this was Leaders Romans.
Yes, well, this was actually when I put the feelers out there, spoke to a couple of brokers, spoke to a couple of agencies directly. One particular broker was all over me. There's definitely there are buyers in the market, and so I played with the idea for a brief period of time whilst we were in lockdown, because I'm thinking I just don't know what's around the corner.
I mean, how many properties did you have under management at this time, roughly?
Under full management, a few hundred. Under rent collection element of management, another couple of hundred. So
okay, so decent size.
It's a reasonable sized portfolio. It's interesting that area of London is, from what I understand, I mean, I've worked at 2 other businesses before setting up Thorgills, but management is not a big thing in that area.
No, but in London's a different market, so you do pay, you get decent fees for both management and rent collection. So okay, so you had a decent portfolio. Doesn't matter what model it was, because you're that part of London. So when was the thing where you said, I've got to restart this and do something different?
Well, so Fine and Country was doing very well.
Okay.
So there's that in the back of my mind. Well, this is going great. I should be looking at this. The average fee is 7 times higher than what we're doing over here. But not just that, because that fee is so much higher, we've got so much more time to spend dealing with client 1 and client 2 and business generation. And I've actually got time to sit here and innovate. I can look at new ways of doing things. And so we genuinely spend time innovating and working on new ways to service the client base. At Thorgills, I was adamant that we were great service providers. I would say that there's very few in the market that offer the service level that we do, until I went and sat at Fine and Country and looked at what we were capable of achieving. This high volume model at Thorgills just couldn't deliver the same quality of service at Fine and Country. So that became very interesting.
You were attracted to the Fine and Country. You were thinking to yourself, I'm not banging my head against the wall with Thorgills, but kind of, it was almost you were fighting fires all the time. So you just decided, sod it, I'm going to sell it.
Yeah, maybe a bit of that as well. So we've got family, I want to be involved in Thorgills, but I want to be away. We've got Fine and Country looks really good. We've got Thorgills. I'm looking and I'm thinking maybe a estate agency. We're twice as expensive as our competitors, and I see the volume we need to do to still be a really good commercial business. Is the estate agency model broken? Does this make sense, this model? Because Fine and Country, the model doesn't work. What I'm doing over here is so different. This looks much more attractive, but I need to be more present, family, kids. Then we've got the agents that I thought I was speaking, or the agents I was speaking to about selling a year ago. They're still knocking on the door, and there's no one thing that's made me think, now's the time. I think it's all that just came together and decided, you know what?
The stars aligned.
This makes sense. We should do this.
So you sold up. How did the staff take it?
Yeah.
And would you announce it or do it differently?
You know what? Out of everything I've talked to you about, a few difficult meetings that we've had over the years, and this is the meeting that I've assessed and reviewed, and could I have done it differently? So firstly, in my entire life, I've probably been late for 5 meetings, and this was one of them. I got stuck in an accident, and so I arrived 10 minutes after the meeting's meant to start, and my team will confirm that's unheard of. So I'm on the back foot a little bit. It's not started how I wanted it to. I know I'm about to tell them the biggest news I've ever had to tell them, and I wouldn't describe myself as flustered, but I'm not in the zone that I want to be in. You know, I want to be there 10 minutes before the meeting's due to start. I want everything set up. When I get there, I've got to do a few bits and pieces. So it doesn't start well. I practiced it how I was going to tell them 1,000 times, and I just got it wrong. The order came out wrong, and that I put another bit of pressure and whatever it was. And when I build it up like you'd need to, and I gave them some context around what I'm about to say, and the reason for it, and what's going on here, and where I see the future of a state agency going, and how for Thorgills to continue to be what they are, we need to look at maybe a fresh approach. And then I give them the news that I've decided to put all this together, and now is the right time for me to exit. And there's dead silence, and I can tell that me using the term "it's time for me to exit" is not enough. So I followed up with, I've sold the business. And it was like I told them I've got cancer. The reaction was, it was just blank faces. They didn't know. No one knew what to say. And to be fair, looking back, was that the right way to deliver it? I honestly don't know, because I want to get feedback instantly. But how can you do that with a group of 30 people in a meeting? That's not how that works.
I mean, these are the people that said literally 18 months ago that they were prepared to work for you for free.
Absolutely.
What would you do differently?
So that's what I just said. I honestly don't know the answer to that, because in a perfect world, I speak to every single one of them independently on the same day. But because there's 30 of them, it's not physically possible for me to do that. That's the perfect scenario. But to do it one-on-one, it's at least 30 meetings. So at the end of the day, word has spread, and the person coming in at the end of the day already knows. So that wouldn't have worked. But I've pulled this apart because I feel like I dropped the ball in how I delivered it.
Okay.
But I can't find, for the life of me, I can't find or see a better way to have done it.
What would your message be to the people in that room?
Oh, they got the message. I mean,
No. What would your message now be? Does anyone hold it against you still, do you think?
No, not at all. The initial shock lasted up to 2 weeks. There was, it's a little bit like grief. You've got to go through the phases. And we were a tight group. People had told me that, don't worry, people are not, once you tell them that, you think you play a huge part in their lives, but you don't really. They're there for the job. And I said, I don't know, because I think we've got a really, really tight group, and it's not all about me, but I am talking about the collective and what impact that will have. So the first 2 weeks was absolutely awful. At that time, I was based with the Fine and Country team, and Daniel was overseeing the Thorgills team. And so I thought it was best for the first couple of days just to let them have time to vent when I'm not in the room.
Yep.
So I followed up with a lengthy message. And the truth is, there's denial, and there's blame, and there's initially. And then by the end of the second week, everyone had met some of the large Leader Romans Group team. They understood what was going to happen. In my view, so we had a number of businesses that wanted to purchase us, and I think I selected the people that are most aligned with our cultures and our ethos. The truth is, the price when you sell a business. And so you've got a number of people willing to pay that price. You can be selective about who the right buyers are. And I felt I picked the right people, and hand on heart, my sister was going to be there as renewals consultant still. She runs renewals, or was running renewals at the time. And so I'm giving that as an example, but I care about everyone in the business just as much as my own sister, which I know sounds weird, but you've got years and years of relationships with them. And so I think the team, within a couple of weeks, they'd come around to the idea, and I was getting nice messages, really nice messages.
Okay.
Completely understand what's happened, why it's happened, why you've made that decision. And I'm still getting nice messages now.
You're now 5 months in from selling on. How's it going with Fine and Country?
It's great. I love it, because there is time in the day, in my view now, with hindsight, I see Thorgills a bit maybe as the apprenticeship that has now set me up to do what I believe we're capable of doing with Fine and Country.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, boys and girls out there in estate agency land, check Ben out on social media. He really is checking out nearly as many videos as I am. So well done on that one. I wish you well in the future, and thank you for your time today. In some separate videos, we're going to do some topics talking about agents together, pie charts, Fine and Country, service levels and things like that, and fees. So thank you for your time today, and check those other ones out on my YouTube channel. Thank you, Ben.
Cheers, Chris.